An estimated 1 in 5 New Zealand children live in poverty. That's some estimates which have been made. Long term, that can affect their labour market success, even cause health problems later in life. Well, one of the world's leading researchers on child poverty is in the country right now. Professor Greg Duncan from the University of California joins me now. Greg, thanks for your time this morning. First of all, how can we define child poverty in our society?
Well, in New Zealand and in most countries, poverty is defined in a couple of different ways. One is simply having an income level that's below a certain threshold. In New Zealand, the most common threshold is to find out in a particular year where the middle of the income distribution is, and then take a point at 60% of that and say that people who have incomes below that are poor. Another method is to count up deprivation indicators, such as being in arrears on rates and water and things like that, not having meat or fish at least every second day, those kinds of things. And by both kinds of measures, as you say, it's about 1 in 5 New Zealand children who are poor.
Greg, I don't think many would argue that our income levels are significantly lower than a lot of our like-minded nations we compare ourselves with. So how bad is our child poverty compared to nations such as Australia, America, European nations?
Well, it's kind of in the middle. The United States leads the way in child poverty with poverty rates that are very, very high. But Australia and New Zealand and Canada have very similar poverty rates, and then Scandinavian countries have much, much lower poverty rates.
So we're obviously doing some things right, and there are things which we can learn from the Scandinavians. First of all, what are we doing right? Let's celebrate the fact that we're not at the bottom of the heap here.
That's right. And there is a system of social benefits that prevent very extremely low levels of family income. But the research that I have conducted, and it parallels research done in New Zealand, suggests that even though the very bottom of the income distribution has been brought up somewhat, you still have a substantial amount of child poverty, and that poverty, especially in early childhood, seems to have long-term impacts on how children develop.
Welfare benefit the right path for us to be pursuing?
Well, every country has to figure out with its own values what sort of system it wants to set up. In the United States, the system is much more geared toward work, where benefits are quite generous but conditioned on work. In most European countries, and certainly Scandinavia, there is a much larger component of welfare that's not conditioned on work. So it depends as much on the values of the country as anything else.
So what can we now learn? If we look at the Scandinavian countries, which you say are performing so much better than us, what can we learn? What can we apply now?
Well, again, it depends on the values. There are proposals now to make benefits more generous. What my research shows that benefits for children might be geared toward the ages of the children. If you look at the impacts of child poverty on how kids turn out, how productive they are 30 years from now, in both the studies I've done and in the Christchurch study, so it's New Zealand data as well, poverty early in childhood seems to make the most difference for how children turn out. So the idea of concentrating benefits more on families with young children, I think makes a lot of sense.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Greg Duncan from the University of California.